Altcoin prices have been absolutely wrecked, and many crypto YouTube personalities are opining that there is no alt season, no NFT season, which would probably mean no digital collectible season, which could mean OMI's token never really pumps this bull market. Now, is that the case? Well, let's discuss that today. I'm excited to welcome my co-host to the show, so if you haven't already, make it rain on that like button, strap in for the show, and let's welcome Doctor of Stuff and the real Randy Chavez. What's up, gentlemen?
Yeah, man.
I don't know, crypto market's doing terrible. Like, should we all be sad and go home and take our balls home and go cry?
I mean, yeah, that's what I mean. I just wiped my tears off right before the stream. Yeah, man. Like this is the thing, right? It's interesting when people talk about Warren Buffett, and Warren Buffett seems to always turn things into cash way before, and people see him do it, right? And they're like, what does he know that we don't know? And then the economy tanks, and everyone is like, of course, if Warren's doing it. And then Warren buys stocks again, and they're like, oh, no, I'm too nervous, right? Like it's very interesting to me because that concept that you always talk about, Rain, of like buy low and sell high, or like buy when it's boring, right? People don't follow that. Like the intuition isn't there, and it's because they want to feel validation. They want to see things moving up before, because they're like, well, what if I buy now and then it goes down further? And what you got to ask yourself is, do I feel like this is a great entry point for this token or this project? That's all you have to do, right? And if you feel like that, right, and you also have to ask yourself, do I think at some point in time, when the narrative hits, it'll get higher than this price? Then you do that, right? And so for me, like I'm looking at all of these projects, and yeah, it is wild to me, all of these influencers, like saying there's not going to be an alt season. And I just want to say, what's your support for that? Like where are you getting that from? Just because it hasn't happened yet? Like, what are the indicators? Like, so they haven't provided that, right? Like they just say like, look, well, it's going down, and like now that there's big people in, it's like there really aren't big people in. Look, I'm in the finance industry, right? And I see this all the time. And what we're starting to see is a lot more loosening of regulations where entities and financial companies are able to hold crypto on their balance sheet, but they're still hesitant. Right? Because they've got to analyze that, and that takes some time. And some of them have been doing it, but like there's still so much money sitting on the sidelines there, and you just got to wait for something that really triggers the market, right? And then things can blow up in seconds, man. So no tears here, actually, Rain. Yeah.
What about you, Randy? What do you think?
I think that there's different types of fudders and people that are often bearish, where you have that misery loves company type of deal. There was a study done, I don't know where it was from, where they did it to like high school kids, and they said like, hey, take these 3 words and then make them rearrange the letters to make another word. And what they didn't tell the students is that what the left side of the class got and the right side of the class got were 3 different words. Doc knows exactly what I'm talking about somehow. He's really smart. He probably studied this. And the left side of the classroom, the first 2 words were super easy. They were like bat, rearrange the tab, and then melon, rearrange the lemon. The right side of the class got 2 words that were, the first 2 words were like impossible. There was no other words that could be made from them. The third word was something that could be rearranged to America. And there were people on the right that did not get that third word because like I felt so stupid that I couldn't get the first 2 in the time frame that you allotted, and they had this really negative sentiment, and that negative sentiment caused them to not solve a third word that should have been very easy, that the rest of the left of the classroom got. And I think that you see that in a bunch of first-time investors in a bear market, where you put on however much people are comfortable with, or maybe they're not comfortable with putting in. Could be hundreds of dollars, it could be hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then when they see it go down, 20% for us, because we're, veterans in this industry, is like, but for a lot of people where you're used to seeing like the S&P 500 go up 9 to 11% per year, down 20% in a day. They're like, oh my, and they're freaking out. So that's one type. And then another type, there's talk about misery loves company. There's another study, I forget which, I think like Harvard did it or Yale did it, on Halo 3. And they looked at the male gamers and how they responded to female gamers. And the low-skilled male gamers were very misogynistic and sexist. And every time the female gamer like screwed up, they were like blasting them with like all this, like, hey, you suck. And they were not helpful at all. Where the more skilled gamers, there was no difference in how they treated like the men versus the women. And they would actually even post like helpful comments when the women would screw up. They'd be like, oh, actually, if you do this, it's easier. And that study showed that if people are confident in the competence of what they know, then they're going to be calm and relaxed. And the people that are not confident and they are looking at other people achieving what they cannot achieve or have not achieved themselves, they sense a disturbance in the hierarchy and they will just scream and call them names and try to bring themselves up while bringing other people down. And when I hear a lot of these other people that are trying to get in this echo chamber of it's all going down, see, I'm glad I sold, like Randy talked about recency bias. And again, none of that's backed up by any particular data. It's like Peter Schiff was right about one thing in like 2008, and he hasn't been right about anything since, but he goes off that one thing that he. So in a long-winded response, to make it short, I'll just say that if you go by data and you have analytics, I'd love to listen. If it's just like, a feeling and you have like one reference point, I'm not going to listen and just drown out the noise.
Great points. Yeah, a lot of people are opining that, like, I see some different things, right? And some really big YouTube personalities in crypto. And when I was new in crypto, I was thrown off by bigger crypto YouTube personalities. I thought the bigger the channel, the more they knew they must. Over time, I've seen that what it takes to be a good investor and what it takes to grow a really big YouTube channel are not the same, not even close to the same. Because to grow a big YouTube channel, number one, post every day. Number two, like videos. Number two, talk about what's hot and what's on people's mind. So you don't make much money by talking about undiscovered gems because nobody's searching for those videos. You're not going to attract new people to your videos doing that. In fact, you'll probably lose a lot of the regular crypto people because they want to hear about what's been going up and they want to FOMO into that. So that's how you build a big YouTube channel. You talk about what's hot. When memes were hot, you change your show to be talking about memes every day and what ones are the best and this and this and this. People are you're going to come up in the searches. You're going to grow an audience by telling people what they want to hear. And so just keep in mind, as you're seeing really big YouTube personalities, ask yourself, did they make their money through investing, or they make their money by giving the 90%? And remember, 90% of people lose money in crypto. Giving the 90% what they want to hear and growing their audience like that. And most of them, that's exactly how they grew their audience. And they're not necessarily really good investors. So discount their advice. You might as well be asking your friend right next door that's in crypto over the big YouTube personalities, because they don't often know. Have they made millions of dollars in crypto, like actual millions of dollars, or they just made like, if your YouTube channel gets really, really big, between what YouTube pays you and sponsors, you can be making, like BitBoy at one point was making $1 million a month. And it's like incredible income, but he's not a good investor. He doesn't have the patience. His actual money from investments isn't very high. So discount what you're hearing in general YouTube. Like, it felt like there would never be an altcoin season last time. In fact, many big YouTube personalities were saying there wouldn't be. Were they wrong? Yeah, they were absolutely wrong. What they do as soon as altcoin season started popping off, talking about which alts had just gone up a whole bunch. Did they lead their audience to buy any of it while it was cheap and people thought it wouldn't happen? No, not at all. So like the same thing's going to happen. Like Is there a chance that there's no altcoin season this time? There's always that chance. That chance is just low, really low. Probably not going to play out that way. So the other big concern is, what about digital collectibles? What about NFTs? Like, what if NFTs don't run? What do you guys think?
If the NFTs don't run, there's still that chance for the metaverse narrative running. So I'm not going to say that the NFT narrative is the end all be all, although that's a very big part in where I think we can do that, 1 to 200x from here. But again, if it doesn't, there's at least still the metaverse narrative. There's at least still the AI narrative, where that's not really going to matter until Stacker rolls out and until we're able to do stuff in the VeVeverse with any type of AI. But just in that blow off top in general, you're going to get projects with utility that, again, even if the NFT narrative doesn't take off, you'll at least have some utility for that. Maybe we only get like a 10x based off that. But now that we're listed as a metaverse token over on CoinMarketCap and CoinGecko, any other future ETFs or people that are looking on those tabs, they'll take a look at us. And, people, if they want, they could go in and they could say, hey, I'm not going to buy NFTs or digital collectibles. Maybe I'll buy art, which again, we have a lot of artists on here. But I don't think that these big companies or big asset managers are going to fade these 100-year-old companies that have like the first Batman or Superman or Spider-Man on the blockchain. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, maybe they will. But even if that narrative doesn't come, or at least the NFT specifically, I'd still say probably like a 10 to 20x, just the way crypto's going.
Big shout out, by the way, to the ADRESS. Here's his comment, but we want to make a special mention of him and something special he did. What's up, gang? Is VeVe a sponsor for Lisbon June NFT Summit or just a participant? Maybe Randy knows that. Also, OMI is now listed as Metaverse token on CoinGecko and CoinMarketCap. ADRESS, great job reaching out and getting that done. That was awesome of you to do that. So ADRESS is responsible for making that happen. Thank you for doing that. What do you think, Doc? Metaverse play going to happen, or excuse me, is the digital collectibles narrative going to happen?
I think it will. And the reason I think it will is because I think that the gaming narrative is going to happen. There's some games out there, Off the Grid, My Pet Hooligan, and there's a couple others that are just fun games to play. And they're launching on, I mean, they're on Xbox and PlayStation. I don't know if My Pet Hooligan, I know that they announced that they're going to be on Xbox, so I don't know if they're on there yet, but Off the Grid is, and people are playing it, and it's fun. And they kind of did like a little soft launch with advertising and gamers playing it and stuff like that, but they've got a war chest. And once they kind of really fine tune things and launch their main net, right? Because everything is still on the test net. Once they launch that on the main net and they really start pushing that out, and maybe it's not Off the Grid, but one of these games is going to hit. And once those games hit, right, people are saying, this is such a fun game to play. I just want to play it because it's fun. Oh, but by the way, I'm getting these NFTs that I can sell on this marketplace, and some of them are worth a lot of money. That's when people start talking about NFTs again. But even if the NFT narrative doesn't hit, like, VeVe kind of has this niche of digital collectibles, right? That they are NFTs, but they're also digital collectibles, which is different as well. And we're starting to see the VeVeverse come out, right? And I heard a lot of, it's just an expanded showroom, and I thought that's what I thought it was initially. But I'm starting to seeing some of these videos of things that people are building, and we're starting to see people build these shirts, like the London Police, like they had like a hoodie. Shout out to them. And you can't really see it right here, but I got my little Genesis key from London Police. It's awesome. But anyways, where I'm going with this is, like, one of those is going to hit. I think the gaming narrative is going to hit, and that will bring in the NFTs. Or even if NFTs don't, digital collecting is going to hit at some point too. And VeVe can hit any of those, right? The metaverse, NFTs, digital collectibles. And so like I think that OMI's got a great shot, but then also just the VeVe NFTs themselves have a great shot of doing really well in this market.
100% agreed. What's crazy to me is I've seen this in 2017. I saw it in 2021. That is, crypto takes off. People start paying attention to the crypto space. And as they do, there's certain narratives that are easy for them to grasp a hold of. Is Bitcoin takes off, other things take off. Like I had this speculative bet back in 2019 that blockchain gaming was going to be a big thing, and this idea of digital ownership of video game items was going to be huge. And I bought some Axie Infinity land, and for 18 months, nobody knew what Axie Infinity was. 24 months after I bought, like, it started to do pretty good, and about 30 months after I bought, it went ridiculously crazy, about 3,000x total from where I bought at. And that narrative, that idea, that speculative bet was very, very correct. Well, I think digital collecting is a way bigger deal than most people are realizing. Like, even if the NFT narrative doesn't hit, and I think it will, I think people are wake up to this idea of digital collecting being superior to physical collecting, and that this is the cycle. Last cycle, some people caught on, but they didn't really catch on to that idea. I think it's ready for this, for people to really catch on to that idea. This idea of digital collecting is amazing. And now VeVe has an arsenal of amazing intellectual property, and they have some drivable cars with your phone and virtual reality, and especially their new VeVeverse looking so good. I think they're set up to really catch some traction. I also think their affiliate program is going to pour gasoline on that fire when that fire does come. What do you guys think?
I'll let Doc finish chewing there. There are, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little worried where because in the beta testing, not everyone that was given beta test access was able to go in and do it, because again, you needed that computer. The mobile version wasn't out yet, and it's still not. That'll be out in a couple weeks, and we'll go over that in a second. But one of the things that Earth 2 had a problem with, that VeVe I think does as well, is the quality of the stuff. If you have a good computer, is out of this world. The sexiest looking things I've ever seen. And when you have people though that have these like 9-year-old computers and the graphics cards aren't as good, you know, they're okay. This looks not great, but you know, it's still playable. And then when it first came out, you had at least a couple whales that I knew that was like really excited to get in because they have all of these insane collectibles and they want to build, and it's not easy. It's quite hard to build. Some of the movements are a little janky, and and I was like, oh man, I really hope this isn't just for like the super small group of people. But then some of the creations, a lot of vault builders got in, and it took them more than a few hours. You know, it took them a day or two, but they created some of this fantastic, like miraculous looking things. And then more than a couple of people had mentioned, hey guys, I'm not, the frustration that I saw with some of the whales that's just like, hey, it takes forever to do anything. A lot of people, some of those whales and some in between, are like, hey, I want to be able to do this. I know I can. I will pay someone to go do this. And I think that's fairly similar with what we saw with Axie Infinity, with what we saw even in Earth 2, where I couldn't make tile art. I have no artistic capabilities, but we have no issue paying other people to make these hollow buildings, to make these other things. And I've seen people create Andy's room. I've seen people create the Lookout from Dragon Ball Z. All of these things that, again, a lot of them are imported. I'm very I knew it was coming out. I didn't know the mobile version would be out. That'll be out in the next couple of weeks. But I'm very bullish on it. It looks better than I think most other metaverses out there. I saw an ad for Decentraland the other day, and again, I'm one of those people that I don't really care what it looks like. Old school gamer, as long as the gameplay is good, I'm happy with it. And a lot of the people it kind of has the best of both worlds here. You have the people that are into it, you have the IP, and then you have the way it looks. Again, if you have a really good computer, it looks great. How it'll look on the cell phone, I'm not sure, but again, you got to expect that computer versus cell phone, and that's my take.
I mean, Rain, the affiliate program is going to be big. It's going to be big, right? And because when you get aligned incentives, like magic happens, right? And I think that there will be some YouTubers. I think that there actually are a lot of crypto YouTubers who have heard of VeVe, right? They might not have paid it much attention, but listen, all I can say is that we've got, like, I know personally one YouTuber that has tens of millions of followers who knows VeVe very, very well. And they're in contact with the affiliate program, right? And so, and that's just one. But you get people that are talking about this, and there's an incentive for them to try to bring on people into VeVe just to get digital collecting and to talk about that and to showcase the animations, the AR VR functions, and then the VeVeverse. Like, that's important too. I think is to show that, hey, now that I have this IP, I bought this collectible. Right now, I can use it in my VeVeverse, and I can set that up. Like, there's a lot more content that can be created by these content creators, and they're going to sit there and people who follow those content creators, they want to mimic them in a lot of ways, right? And they're like, oh, this person has this, I want to get this too. They really like this, I want to get this too. And so it has the potential to really onboard a lot of the masses, and we've been seeing that. So I don't think it's going to be anything right off the bat that's crazy. But I do think that we'll start to see like a steady climb of acquisition of users, like a larger user base, little by little. But then at some point when the narrative hits, that's when all of these other YouTubers, these crypto YouTubers, right? And then they see this affiliate program, they're going to be applying like mad, because then they're going to want to talk about it too. And I don't think that any of that is priced in to the collectibles or the OMI token, because that's the other thing that we're kind of waiting for Stacker. We know that we can buy OMI. We can use OMI to purchase certain NFTs, but we need to be able to buy OMI with a credit card on Stacker, and we need to be able to buy all of the IP. And there was a response by Stacker when someone was sitting there saying, oh yeah, but we're never going to get like all of the IP on VeVe, or all the large IP on VeVe, and for OMI to NFT. And basically Stacker said something along the lines of like, you want to make a bet, implying that it's coming down the pike. And so I think there's just so many things that are going to be lining up here in the short term, in the near term, that are gonna, if the bull run hits, when the bull run hits, which I believe it will, and they have all those things in place, it's going to be pretty powerful. So really excited for the affiliate program and all of the content that's being created now. And these YouTubers, right, they're going to be able to create some of that content themselves.
100% agreed. And what's funny is the compounding effect when somebody's hearing it from one big influencer, and then they're hearing it from another. And say you have a big channel, a lot of times they talk to each other. And if they start making good money by referring people to it, all the other influencers are going to want to do it too. And it will become like, imagine if when Pokemon was really, really taking off, if the big influencers were able to get money by getting people interested in Pokemon cards. They weren't, but they were talking about it because it's hot, but it is an aligned incentive. And I think it's going to be much crazier than most people are realizing. What's funny is when this stuff happens, it seems like, oh, of course it was always going to happen. But people thought I was crazy when I was talking about blockchain gaming. They really did. Like, almost nobody would listen. And they thought it was crazy. And then later they're like, oh, of course it happened. And it's like, you say that. Did you buy before it happened? Well, no. Okay, so if of course it was going to happen, why didn't you position your funds ahead of time? Well, I just there were other things, and it's like I call it golden vision, being able to look at the fundamentals behind things and where it's going, and be able to make a calculated guess that the odds are massively in your favor for something. And I think the odds are massively in our favor for blockchain gaming to do really well, and this idea of digital collecting to really go well. And I think VeVe is extremely well positioned to catch massive traction when that happens. And by extension, the OMI token as well. Shout out to people in the comments. We have a ton already. If we don't get to you, then we'll try to keep up. Sometimes comments are crazy. We do always hit the super chats. Responding to Wes, who said, "What if the narrative doesn't hit?" William Kiefer says, "Wes, then we lose money. That's the game we were playing. In order to hit hundreds of X's, can't invest in Apple and Nvidia. Have to find something that is disruptive and has good potential, and hope we are right."
I love that. Well said. Well said.
So VeVe Ben says, "Oi, oi, oi." Morning, boys. Question: is it better to dollar cost average on OMI or diversify more? Currently focused on DEVI, Definity, but I'm not sure if I should focus more on bringing my OMI average price down from 0.0015. Great question, VeVe Ben. I like diversification beyond. I'm diversified beyond those three to a bunch, but I do really love those three. Those are some of my favorites. All three of those have amazing businesses behind it that I really like what's going on there. So which ones do I like more than that? I don't know. Those are some of my favorites right there. But that was a question you can answer for yourself. What do you guys have any thoughts on his question?
Well,
you want to
go? No, you go first, Randy.
Okay. It's going to be different for each person on your timeline, on how risk averse you are. Because if you're, 65, 70 years old, and maybe you're not in great health, maybe you just want to have like treasury and get your and it depends on how much money you have. If you have $100 million, 4% a year doesn't sound like a lot when you have 30,000, but when you have 100 million, you're getting that 4.5% per year. I don't think anyone in their 20s or 30s would be benefiting themselves greatly by buying those treasuries at that point, just by the VOO or the SPY. Obviously, none of this is financial advice. It's just kind of one of the ways I'm seeing it here. Richard Gilmore from Gilmore Girls had said, I was talking to his mom about some money that he borrowed. He's like, I was 29. I was young. That is the time to take risks because you're not tied down. You don't have a family. You don't and you could be 21 and have a family. That's fine. But at the end of the day, you have to make that decision for yourself. What are you comfortable with losing? And are you going to psych yourself out of a good investment just because it goes down? There was a buddy of mine that in the high risk lending, he was a good salesman, but it took up too much mental real estate for him to actually lend the money out himself. He was making himself sick. It was causing himself feelings of malaise. It was not good. So he himself just shouldn't have been investing. Obviously, we know you. You've been commenting for quite a while. It's not a bad idea to split that into three, and they're probably not all going to pump at the same time. One will probably pump up first, and that's probably a safe way to do it. Again, none of this financial advice, but just kind of some options there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very similar, right? I love OMI. Really like Debbie. I really like Debbie and what Debbie is doing. But dollar costing average down, it's all risk appetite. That's the biggest thing, right? And so we never give advice as to what we people should do. We always talk about what we're doing, but each of us have different financial profiles and risk profiles, right? What we're comfortable losing or risking. And so we try to just educate people and say, hey, here's why we like these things. But people still have to make that decision themselves. For you, VeVe Ben, with the 0015, do you feel like that's a solid dollar cost average spot for you and what you want? And if it is, then great. I mean, I think that there's a lot of things that can happen with the token. Another thing that we haven't really even touched about, I mean, I think Wes brought it up, but in the chat is this lawsuit. I think that the judgment's coming down here pretty soon in the next couple of weeks, right? And it'll be interesting and very telling to see how that how that lands or what the decision is there. But if it goes in VeVe's favor, I think that there's going to be a kind of a broadening of their ability to kind of talk more openly about the token. This is just my as I was trying to follow along with the lawsuit in Singapore and then New Zealand as much as possible. That's my take on it. And so, and I think it's going to go from what I saw, it sounds like things are going to be in VeVe's favor, so crypto bro, maybe he's going to get his money cut off from Degens, and he won't be able to sit there and troll anymore. But who knows? But I think that will also open things up there. But for me, I love those tokens, but I'm definitely more diversified. I'm in a lot of gaming tokens as well, as because I am really bullish on I think that the gaming sector is going to hit pretty big. So we'll see.
Mike says, "What's up, everyone? Bill Gardner in the house. VeVe Zombie here. Nurse Cooper, Ozza. Cool.
We got VeVe and Ben in the chat, man. Ben Rose.
Love those guys.
Wow. Oh my gosh, the chat goes way down. Oh, yeah. Sanjay here.
Love you, Sanjay, my man.
That's a big offer. If you were to charge for his consulting time, it'd probably be like $2,000 an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sanjay is absolutely wickedly bright.
I don't know if people recognize that there's a song by Sean Foucault as "I Wish I Could Tell You What You Don't Know," and there are, was it Ratatouille, where he's telling his brother is like, hey, I want to do this cooking thing, and his brother's like, Dad doesn't like it. He said he doesn't know much about it, and Ratatouille says like, they could fill stadiums with stuff that Dad doesn't know, and they have, and I feel like the more knowledge you get, the bigger your field of ignorance, because you know that you don't know more things than you did yesterday. And you start learning about these things, and the amount of knowledge that is in the gold logo chat and is in the Akomi Secret Rare logo chat is worth millions upon tens of millions of dollars. And I feel like, and there's mentor chats in there, like, hey, ask us about this, ask me about whatever. I'm not going to kind of dox anyone and say what their positions are, the real names is, but Jesus, guys, like, there are some of the smartest and most successful people that I've ever met in those chats, and take advantage if you're in, or take Mr. MC1 up on what he's saying. Very intelligent, very big network, and heart of gold. Does things that he doesn't have to, just for the betterment of the community, humanity. Yeah.
All right, I'm just trying to catch up on all the chat. Holy cow!
Dude, we got My Collectibles in the house, Ben Rose in the house, or Millie's in the house.
So yeah, shout out to My Collectibles. He sent me a DM on Twitter, and I was like, I sent a copy to Doctor of Stuff. I was like, is this really him? Because one of his wording choices, I was like, I don't know, but he is from part of Canada where maybe they say things like that. So I was like, I don't know. I said to Dog's like, yeah, it's him, because I have seen that people get their Twitter accounts hacked, and then you get reached out to them by them, and you think it's like your buddy on Twitter, and it's not, somebody that took over their account. So I was a little bit sketched out by that at first.
Yeah, I mean, that happened to Danny the Bull, right? His Twitter account got hacked, and he was DMing people and stuff. So I love that. It's always better safe than sorry. And I will say the wording was a little like, I was like, okay. But, VeVe is a multinational team too, right? And so that could have been someone who else was like, it's like, hey, here's what we're sending to all of the potential, affiliates, sending this out. And so anyways, but no, yeah, I was like, oh no, that's My Collectibles for sure.
Yeah. All right. Going through, I'm just putting some stars by some of the different ones.
And I do need some hot and honey.
Randy, what do you think Stacker and Dr. Profit have hidden up their sleeve for a Lisbon NFT event in June? They said they would make it worth your while if you came.
I mean, Prophet's got a big house, so maybe party at his house. I don't know. I don't want to put words in people's mouths, but I don't know. I honestly don't. Prophet asked if I was going, and I thought, like, maybe I might. I don't know. We'll see. It's a lot of traveling in the May and June area. I haven't been there in a while. I would love to, but he kind of left it at that. He didn't say like, hey, you should really come. I maybe at that point the plans weren't solidified. Maybe they'll have like a stacker. You'll get like a card, and only people who are there are going to get the card, and it's like a gold stacker logo. I think that would be cool.
Cool.
Doc your eyes. But I honestly don't know. But I would not put it past him to do something fantastically magical, because he likes to party.
Just getting caught up. Ben Rose saying, hey guys, appreciate all your insights, especially your belief in the affiliate program. Let's do this. Great idea. And I spoke, and Dr. Stephanie, and Randy spoke it with him a different time, the guy that you connected up and brought over for the affiliate program. Really, really liked him. He was very knowledgeable, very motivated, like cool guy. I was impressed with that hire. Great hire. All right. Just going through. Holy cow. Trying to keep up with this is crazy. We got VeVe Zombie with a super chat. VeVe Earth 2, OMI, and Essence to the Moon.
Can't wait. Yeah, that's the other. And I like what VeVe did that is similar to Earth 2, where Earth 2 was working on their Earth 2 version 1 for like years. And what they would do is they would go on and they would release like a 30-second to like a 2-minute like clip of their Earth 2 metaverse, and it would continuously get people hyped. And I think I told Ben this one day when he first came in, and then like not too long after that, VeVe started doing these VeVeverse videos with their with people like, oh, hey, look at this is a really cool creation, because it got people hyped, like, oh, this is what you create, these are the types of things over there. So I really like that VeVe did that. Essence is, again, they don't have their own real IP. Like they have their own Earth 2 IP where you have skins in there, and that's fine. But they obviously VeVe wins in the IP area. But Essence, Earth 2, despite it not having any of its own original IP outside of or any other licensed IP, they still get hundreds of thousands of viewers on their videos. They get a large amount of, I mean, you could go to it. There's like 6 transactions per second where somebody's doing something with Essence. They're transforming it. They're buying jewels. They're selling property. That is really cool. And the fully diluted market cap is like $12 million. Non-fully diluted, we're not sure 100% what it is. I'm going to say it's like 2 million. Very, very low. So yeah, agreed, Zombie. Earth 2's Essence and VeVe's OMI to the moon.
I'm still going through and picking out some comments to share, but this one just had to be brought to the front of the stage. I paid to go to a Trump rally where Trump calls Randy on the stage to speak about America, and then Randy makes it all about Gilmore Girls episode.
It's amazing.
Probably would happen.
So just so y'all know, whenever I get this, it's a Gilmore Girls Monopoly board that just came out, made by Hasbro, and I will disappear for a couple of days. I will be do nothing but playing that game with people. Yeah, good times.
All right, going crazy. I know we also have some other agenda items you guys want to talk about. Randy brought up fundamentals versus hype and fundamentals. What were your thoughts there?
I think we've gone over this, I think before, or maybe I have in other videos. They all kind of blend together here. Meme coins have taken, or we'll take a step back here. S&P 500, I think I went over this before. You have the VOO and the SPY that tracks it. If you want to invest in the stock market and you have no idea what you're doing, any financial manager worth their salt, so just go on the S&P 500. Because 9 to 11%, again, in crypto doesn't seem like a lot, but over the course of 30 years, compound interest is one of the most insane things ever. And that's one of those things where it sucks a lot of dumb money out of the markets. And you don't necessarily have that with crypto yet. There are ETFs, sure, but they're not really accessible by everyone. They're only in certain parts of the world. And you might have this learn by doing, where eventually, as people get these apps and they're doing their research, you might have some education go that way, because people will get burned and they learn by doing. But a lot of newer people, they look at those green candles, or they look at you have burns and you have people hyping up this token, and it's just the pumpamentals, and they don't look at the real questions of, okay, how much are they making a year? What is the use for this token? Are they disruptive in any way? Are they vertically integrated? Do they own what they sell? Or any of these things? What's actually to their bottom line? Are they growing? Are they stationary? When they're raising money, what value are they raising money at? And I feel like if you can learn these, and this is one of the perfect things to talk to Mr. MC1 about. Be like, hey, how can you tell if a company is undervalued, or how can you tell what the value of a company is? And I don't know if you can really tackle that in 30 minutes, but fundamentals are forever, and those hype and pumpamentals maybe for a couple weeks, and then a lot of times they rug. Even if they don't rug, the magic's lost, and there's nothing sustainable about them that keeps bringing in revenue, that keeps paying for influencers or paying for KOLs. If you learn to see what the fundamentals of a company are, then, and again, which VeVe has all of them, they have it in spades. That's the thing that's going to get you, that'll probably get you rich in the future.
Yeah, great. Some great thoughts from Randy. It really comes down to, like, the way I think about it is similar. Predictability. Like, what is the predictability? Now, if we had a magic crystal ball, we wouldn't have to do research. We'd just look at the magic crystal ball and see where things were going to be in 2 weeks, 2 months. And we would be able to guess perfectly where things are going to be at. And we would know what would pump, and we would make not just billions of dollars, but trillions of dollars, because you'd be able to play the market perfectly. But there's no magic crystal ball. So you have to then make guesses. And the challenge is this problem of predictability. For example, meme coins. The reason I don't play meme coins is because there's probably this last 12 months, we've had probably 10,000 meme coin projects launched, maybe even more than that. And out of that, like 5 have done exceptionally well. And sometimes, so what's the predictability on meme coins? Well, if major influencers are getting involved in talking about it, then probably they'll pump, but they might pump before you're able to get any, and you might be buying high, and then it gets dumped on you, because there's probably 25 meme coin projects that major influencers have bought, and there's nothing underlying it. So the problem with that is, even if you get in something that some major influencers are pumping, if people start dumping before you sell, the price could go way below what you own. And so not only is the predictability low, the predictability of when to buy and sell is also extremely low. And so though there are random examples of people that made good money with it, just your chances aren't very good and your predictability is low. So as you're looking at which crypto projects to invest in, higher predictability come from projects that have underlying revenue, if you can find them. There aren't very many in the crypto space that have solid underlying revenue. And that's going to sustain a business, so it doesn't likely fold in the time frame that you're looking to hold it. And that's the important part, because I know even some of the things that I bought in the last 3 years, some of them have gone under in the meantime. Why? They had more outflows than inflows. In fact, most crypto companies have no inflows other than selling their token to raise additional funds, or what they raised on their initial token sale. So when you have projects that do have inflows, that can help sustain them so they survive until the greater bull market. Number 2, if they do have fundamental things going really well for them, say they have a thriving community that buys the digital collectible releases as they come out, Well, then that means there's a lot of people invested in it and aware of what's going on with it. So when the metaverse things happen or digital collectibles narrative hits, or you already have a big user base that will be telling all their friends and showing their friends what their values have gone up by or what the OMI token has gone up by, which makes it easier for tons of other people to come in. And so the reason I like OMI is just higher predictability than a lot of the things out there. Now, is it fully predictable? Do we know 100% that the digital collectibles narrative is going to hit? Nothing's 100%. Not even the idea that you're going to wake up tomorrow isn't quite 100%. Might be almost 100%. But we don't know the future. We don't have that magic crystal ball. So I'm just looking for projects that have higher predictability. And some of that predictability comes from they have incoming revenues to offset the ongoing expenses of running a business. And that's a big thing. Definity does that really well. You also have that with OMI. Like, does VeVe, one of the companies I have massive incoming revenues? Not yet. They have a little bit of incoming revenues, but they're still in the raising fund place through equity sales and other things to raise funds to take their thing much bigger. That is a place that most crypto projects are in. In fact, probably like 98 to 99% of crypto projects don't really have incoming revenues to speak of. And so when we find a few like OMI or Definity, that's why I like those ones a lot. VeVe, I'm taking a risk. They don't have incoming revenues. I think in the future they're going to have huge incoming revenues, but that's a risk factor that they don't yet. They're not yet stabilized by massive incoming revenues to offset outgoing expenses. All right, so for me, it's about predictability. You'll never get 100% predictability, but I like to find things that have 70 to 98% chance to survive until the coming bull run, and then doing some research to get a feel for if I think their narrative will hit in the bull run. What about you, Doc?
I think the problem with fundamentals, right, is you have to you got to get lucky. I mean, Mike in the chat says that the JD Vance meme token made him a 10x, 6 figures. So, I mean, just doing some math here, but Mike had to put in at least 10K to make that 10x, 6 figures or more. That's so risky. But like he says, high risk, high reward, right? So he got right on that. And but how many other tokens launched that just didn't do that? And so for me, like I tried to follow all of the meme coin craze for a bit, and I made some money. Nothing crazy. I never got in early enough on any of the tokens to go to do wild stuff. And so for me, like I'm more about the fundamentals, because I think that, listen, I can do the research, and if that company is still making money, that if/when the narrative hits, and they're in that narrative, that token's going to do really, really well, especially if the token's been beat up like OMI has. And, you know, VeVe, like people haven't really realized what VeVe is capable of. And, you know, some of the partnerships it seems like are coming about with VeVe is huge. And then even like Gunzilla or some of these other, My Pet Hooligan, I mean, they're on Coinbase. You know, their Carrot token is on Coinbase, and like they're using AI in their video games. It's pretty wild what they're building, and the game looks freaking awesome. And the premise of the game is super rad. Like the evil bad guy is Zuckerberg, basically, right? They got these Zucker bots that they're trying to destroy, like, and it's these cute little rabbits with, you know, like this edge to them. Like it's such a fun game. But anyways, like I like the fundamentals like that. There's less stress for me. So we'll see. I love hearing. Listen, Mike made 10x. That's amazing. Like I love hearing that, and congrats on any of those things. I love hearing people win, but for me, there's too much stress around trying to find out what the next narrative is going to be and getting in on those fundamentals early enough, right? I just can't do that, and so I'm playing the long game there. But and I guess I'm looking at what Rain's done over the last several years, man, and he's just crushed it. And so I'm looking at that and saying that's more my style, anyways. Finding those fundamentals, doing the research, believing the team, and then staying up to date. I think that's why we do this show, is we try to keep people informed as to what's going on, talking about the latest with VeVe, and sometimes you know, VeVe or some of these other tokens, but for the most part, focusing on OMI and VeVe and what they're building, and really like that. So I'm with you guys on the fundamentals. For me, it's just like a more sane space for me.
Good thoughts. Good thoughts. So we had on the agenda to talk about the affiliate program, which we already talked about. Any additional thoughts there? I mean, we do know some people, much bigger YouTube channels than ours, that aren't crypto focused and that are really, really interested in VeVe. And I think that's part of the magic behind it. That you'll have people just barely getting aware of the crypto space, and they will magnetize to Batman and Superman and Marvel comics and other things. And they'll be excited to share it with their audience. That like, oh, look at this cool thing that you actually own these digital collectibles. I think it's really going to be a big deal. Randy wanted to talk about Bezoge Man waking up from his slumber and some whale wars going on.
Well, yes, I will. There was, and again, like for people that say they don't believe in VeVe, or people that say that they, you know, the company's dead, they have a pretty hard time with moving on. It was a common thing to get to, like, for fudders to kind of rally around when Bezoge Man had kind of stopped collecting, and everyone's just like, see, he's not buying anymore. He doesn't believe anymore. You know, the first step is not buying. The second step is not selling. And that's a really weird conclusion to come to for somebody that had over 60,000, or he has like 65,000 collectibles. Just because he's not buying thousands of collectibles every week anymore doesn't mean that he doesn't believe. Maybe he had stuff going on. Maybe he went out to touch grass for a couple months, vacation, whatever. So then you had Dr. Fuse, who, my God, this last week he purchased 1,500 collectibles. He's up to 40,000 collectibles, you know, altogether. And, you know, doing the calculations, okay, he doesn't do 1,500 each week, but, you know, a lot of times he'll do, you know, 900-ish. I'm like, all right, in X amount of months, you'll get up to Bezoge Man. And I know that his girlfriend's friend follows me, and I think his girlfriend follows me too, just specifically for the alpha, I guess. And a message must have gotten to him saying like, hey, this person's coming for your number one wallet spot. And in the last couple of weeks, he started buying again. He bought another 500 collectibles this week. It's not as much as Dr. Fuse's 1,500, but it's enough to where he's not going to be able to get the number one wallet in 6 months. He might have to wait 18 months now to get it. And this is just, I remember when Brock McBlockchain did this with like the Koras of the, what's that called? Of the Tokidokis. Him and a friend just went back and forth buying them just because it was funny. There was no rhyme or reason. And on this type of level where you have FU money, and, you know, let's say these types of collectibles were like $3 each. Okay, Bezoge Man be getting, you know, throwing 4,500 a week at this just for a number one wallet spot. And a lot of the stuff that Bezoge Man and Dr. Fuse buy, they're some of them are dollar comics, sure, but some of them are like $8, $9, $10. Like I think Dr. Fuse got the last like one of one, like the artist proof. So when the affiliate program comes in, and I saw it in Earth 2, where people that knew nothing about the company, they made an account just so they can get a referral code. They would use mine and other people's videos, and they would say like, yeah, this person has this to say about it. This person has this to say about it. And you know what? I think I like it too. And you guys comment down below, use my referral code, go get land, and let me know how you like it. That same thing will likely happen with VeVe, where people that do not care about the company, they don't care about people, that they're just going to say like, oh, you can get X amount of dollars for signing people up. Count me the F in, and it's gonna go crazy. And out of those people, it's like, okay, well, how does VeVe go out and spend money to get people, you know, on the app? Doesn't that cost them money? Absolutely. But if you have 1% of those people that go out and are in the top 500, and 1% of 1%, obviously you have a Bezoge Man or Dr. Fuse, you can take a loss on the 80% that, you know, buy one collectible and that's it, because the other ones are just going to sustain you for the next several years. And that secondary market is going to dry up pretty quick when that happens.
Kyle says, I hope when I shake your guys' hands at San Diego Comic-Con, I will be wealthier. 10,000 Devi here, 20 million OMI. Good job, brother. Turtle says, let's go. Sounds like OMI is getting ready to blast off. How do we join the quest for 1 billion OMI? Well, it's cheaper than it's been in, 3 years. And I think you can get a billion OMI for what, $250,000 these days?
Yes,
No.
it's just
What is it? It's
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
that number's wrong.
Is it? No, because 10 million is 2,500, so 100 million is 25,000, so a billion is 200,
Okay.
quarter million.
Perfect.
So
cheaper than ever.
And Turtle, I know, already has a decent amount, so he wouldn't have to spend a quarter million. Maybe spends 200K, give or take. Give or take.
VeVe Zombie, it definitely feels like the energy of VeVeverse and NFTs are starting to change for the positive. A lot of momentum of amazing creators and passionate collectors. Yeah, it goes slowly and then quickly is how it often goes. If you join me on Wednesdays, sometimes Thursdays, when Paul joins, and Paul's been doing price action trading for 30 years, and he talks about this idea of a brick being pulled by a rubber band. And you're pulling on the rubber band and the brick doesn't move, but you can start to see some signs and then suddenly the brick moves. And that's often how markets run. Mr. MC1E, want to share your comment. Thanks for joining us here, and thanks for your offer for taking community members and giving them a half hour of your time. Absolute legends of our space. You guys have shared so much amazing alpha. I picked up some good coin at the Ether time last cycle because of you guys.
Love Mr. MC1.
Yeah, total stud. All right. Valentine says, guys, what do you think about that Ben Gedenzi's tweet that was posted a couple of days ago saying something like that issue is close to an end?
It makes sense. I mean, the court case finished in December, and they just have to wait for the ruling. It's been a few months, so that person sounds like they had a kind of an inside track of what was going on, whether through someone jaded or somebody that was on Ben Gedenzi's side and now is jaded because he found out all the lies, or someone maybe close to VeVe. I don't know about the latter. I think it would probably be the former. And he put all these examples of Ben doing stuff, Ben Gedenzi doing stuff that had just scammed people back in the day. And honestly, I'm surprised he's made it alive this long with all that he did. He did mention a new lawsuit that he was cooking up on the collectibles, but in the same way that the Democrats try to call everyone they don't like Hitler, that kind of loses its effect after a while. It's like Charizard using the move Overheat, really effective the first time, but lessens the effect the second, third, and fourth. It's like how many frivolous lawsuits can he throw out? So I don't think the people are kind of done with and over it now. But yeah, I'm really curious to see who this person's getting that is coming to talk to the table now. Are there going to be criminal proceedings? Are there going to be civil lawsuits? Like, is it going to be legal, civil, or is it going to be both? It does not look good for him, and I'm not going to lie, I am very, very happy about that.
The person who hacked my collectibles Twitter account also hacked his YouTube channel and says, it was me, Crypto Rain. I'm just kidding. Good to hear, brother. So good to have you here. Good. Yeah, just wanted to make sure it was you. Ancient Wisdom says, I'm not paying for super chats. This isn't midget porn. Are you sure about that? I'm pretty sure it is.
Anytime like certain comments come out, I never know where they're going to go. Like, pick a comment at random. I could not guess what it's going to be about.
Right. All right. Some other things. So VeVe update video with David has some really excited, jaded people posting some comments about it. What were your thoughts on some of the comments about David's video?
One of the comments that people had said was just like, oh, it looks like David's reading off a script. And it's like, have you ever seen like earnings calls from people in the stock market? And like, that's what they do. And that's just, and also I know some people want things like from the heart, understand that, but sometimes people have, and David doesn't really have that issue. David's pretty good speaker, but why do that and maybe stumble and when you could just be like, hey, we want to write something that's efficient. David he does not have a lot of time, so it's easier to speak something that's efficient, that gets the point across, and someone that's ready to take action there. The people that had a problem with this is David's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. He didn't talk about OMI for years, but likely because of the lawsuit. And then he brought up OMI multiple times in like the course of 3 or 4 days. And then people are upset that like, hey, he's mentioning OMI and they just don't like the way he's mentioning it because it's not enough alpha. It's not enough whatever. It reminds me of those incels that, like kind of talk down on women. They finally get a woman to call them back and then like complain the whole time. Oh, it took you too long to call me back. To like, just dude, be excited that he's finally starting to talk about OMI. I think what people are missing is that the tide has turned, and for whatever reason he started to talk about that. For whatever reason it was, I am happy he started talking about OMI. I think this is a glimpse at things to come, and that's just kind of my take on it.
By the way, Sanjay will be joining, I think, Randy's channel to talk about the VeVe affiliate program tomorrow evening at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So be there or be square. Don't miss that. All right, just getting caught up on some more chats. What about you, Doc? Did you catch the David update video? I know you've been super slammed lately. We got your mute on.
Yeah, no, I did listen to it, and yeah, I've listened to a lot of earnings calls, and a lot of them are scripted, and that's okay. Listen, as a company, what happens is I think that people got used to the small company that VeVe was when they started out, and where we did get a lot of FaceTime and a lot more just like off the cuff reactions, and but over time, David got burned. He would say things and they were misinterpreted. And people got upset. And I think that, as they've gotten bigger, it's just like, as companies get bigger, the CEOs, they do kind of go off of a script. So they make sure that they get the information they need to out. And then there's less likely, some scripts there that like people misinterpret or even interpret correctly. But like, that's not what, like, I don't know, it's just less likely that there's going to be drama about it. And so I had no issues with it, and it was good. It was a good update. They're just kind of telling us where things are headed, and it was shorter. Like, right, I think it was about 20 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I enjoyed the update, and I'm grateful for these updates. It was pretty long, but between the last update was like September, and they call it quarterly updates, and I was like, well, I guess. I feel like they missed a quarter there somewhere. So hopefully we get these quarterly updates, but people are going to find something to complain about no matter what. It is just amazing to me, like no matter, like it can be like, I'm giving everyone $1 million in the entire world. And then they're like, why isn't it 5 million? Like there's just some people who will just never be happy no matter what happens,
It is exactly like a jaded ex-girlfriend. If you've ever had a jaded ex-girlfriend, the behavior is exactly the same because emotionally they've decided they're mad at you. And so you can't do anything right in that environment. Everything is through the lens of, I'm so mad at you. So, I mean, when you look at it through that lens, their behavior makes perfect sense.
Yeah, definitely. And like I always say, right, you can leave VeVe, but you can't leave it alone. And that's because there was such an emotional attachment that they had to VeVe, right? That like once they decided to quote unquote leave, like they can't leave it alone. Even these people, right, that are like they change their profile pic and their name and everything, and they like then they start up a new account, and then those people come back and still have to have their input in it. And to me that just shows the power of VeVe, and it just makes me more bullish. It's like, listen, people. Like they just can't walk away from it, and it's amazing.
Yes. So, Trump family attempting to take a stake in Binance. What does that mean for the crypto space?
Send it. I pump my bags, Trump. Do whatever you need to do. I don't think that he would do something like this unless he had a specific want or need to pump certain types of crypto, or at least get other people invested. If you have a piece of the exchange, you'll just have a piece of the trading fees. So he's going to want people to get into crypto. He's going to want them trading, and I think that's what the team is doing, making it super clear for the SEC, for other companies, what they can and can't do. Send it. That's going to be good for OMI.
I think it's really Trump himself, or obviously some of his kids are very pro crypto, and that probably this is more as kids, because Trump himself has to distance himself, can't be doing this stuff himself. He was able to launch his meme coin like 2 days before he came in and was inaugurated. But like once there as a US president, you can't essentially be pumping your own bags, but your kids can do whatever they want. So as we saw, like Joe Biden's son selling, pictures, really, really amazing artwork for, $500,000 and $1 million because he was really talented. Seems like they're not so much into drawing pictures and selling it, but looking at the crypto space. So now, have you all used Binance? Because it is one of my favorite exchanges. It is awesome.
I have not.
I haven't.
U.S. investors have been blocked on it for the last couple of years after the U.S. SEC started going really anti-crypto exchanges and declaring every altcoin they could as a security, and therefore, they were at risk of getting sued, just like what later happened to Coinbase. Oh, we're suing you because 20 of these coins or whatever the number is are they're securities, and therefore we're suing you for listing securities on your exchange. And so in that kind of regulatory hostile environment, Binance and then a bunch of other exchanges just stopped allowing US people to be part of it. Hopefully that comes back around. It would seem, if that's the case, if Trump's kids buy it, probably they would talk to their dad and be like, hey, can you have the SEC clarify that these are not securities? And even if they were, like the one judge's ruling says, even if they were securities at the time of launch, buying them on an exchange is not a securities contract. So that would be fine. And then, of course, the SEC was appealing that ruling, as it hated that ruling. And I think the SEC under Trump is withdrawing their appeal on that, which means the law of the land in the U.S. is that secondary sales on an exchange like that aren't securities contracts, if I'm understanding it right. Doc deals in the financial space. Is that your read on it?
I mean, yeah, if they withdraw from that, then, and I got into this huge debate online and actually made some videos about it, right? As someone was trying to attack, OMI and saying that the OMI token was a security, and really dove into that. And there's some verbiage there, but like, honestly, the decision basically was said at the time that the token launched, like that was a security. But once it went to the secondary market, there's no contract there that people could really formally understand. And so they didn't consider it a security, and there was people who were like, well, how can the token be a security but not a security? Like, there's a lot of debates around that, right? But the fact that they're withdrawing it, at least for now, that shows that the intent is to better define it. And man, Hester Peirce, I love Hester Peirce. So she's one of the chairs at the SEC, right? And she's kind of heading up this crypto committee, and she's like out there asking, really trying to gather a lot of information. And like, I would say that her stance over the years has been very pro crypto. Like, as the SEC has put out some of this guidance and things, she's dissented, like almost every single time she's dissented, and said why, right? And so I really think that she's out there earnestly trying to give clear definitions on what crypto is. And so the first thing is to pull all these lawsuits out, right? So that we don't get judges making rulings that then define the law, when they can come out and say, hey, here's our interpretation of it, and kind of put that out. But she's seeking a lot of guidance from the industry to do that, which is the right thing to do. I mean, like, you think about like poor crypto. So everyone gives VeVe and OMI such a hard time. Guys, I don't think you guys understand how much money that, like, they may have had to pay out, right? Robinhood went to the SEC and they're like, hey, here's what we're doing. This is what we're thinking, and the SEC is like, thanks, we're going to sue you now. With all the information you've given us, now we're going to sue you, right? Like, and that's what they just kept doing. And so it's like, why paint a target on your back until you get some regulatory certainty? And that's what we're starting to see as these agencies are pulling back and they're saying, okay, let's actually put out some regulations, some clear guidelines. And then if people don't follow them, I'm sure the SEC will go after some of those projects. And they should, if the guidance is there, right? But it hasn't been clear ever. It hasn't been fully clear. So really excited for what's coming down the pike with that. And I do think that as of now, the interpretation would be that any token on the secondary market is no longer a security.
Yeah. Under Gary Gensler, the SEC seemed like they were acting as a rogue regulatory agency. So it's like, oh, dear Robinhood, we've decided you're selling securities, and you didn't register as a company to sell securities. Well, we tried to register. We asked you what we need to do, and you told me not to. Still, you're in trouble. You've been speeding. Well, we asked you what the speed limit was, and you told us you didn't know. Well, now we've decided it's slower than you were going, and so you're in trouble. And that's almost like an overgeneralization of exactly what was happening with them. And to me, that just sounds like corruption. It's kind of like, you know what, because he had no problems with FTX and FTX selling things, and probably he was greenlighting FTX to be able to sell securities. Why? I don't know. He had like 13 meetings with Gary Gensler when Coinbase couldn't get a face-to-face with it. Now, Brian, maybe you should have given $100 million to the Democrat Party, and then maybe it would have been easy. Maybe it wasn't that, Gary. Maybe it wasn't the $100 million of other people's money Sam Bankman-Fried was giving to the Democrat Party. Maybe there's some other reason. Or maybe there isn't. Maybe that's exactly the reason. So, Gary, you just don't seem like a good actor in my book. Seems like you were corrupt, and I'd hate to think that was the case. You were once the finance chairman for Hillary Clinton's campaign, so I'm sure you're not corrupt at all. So stop making it look like he might be. Yeah, and now he's out, thank goodness. And we have a different SEC person. I don't even know. Was Hester Peirce put in front of? Is she the head director? What is the situation there? I know she's now that he's gone, she has a much more prominent voice, and she did have a prominent voice, but he kind of drowned everything out.
Yeah, so she is not the acting director or head of the SEC, but I don't think she wants to be honest. But she is. Hold on, let me find out exactly what she's heading. But she is heading this crypto group within the SEC. Let's see. So she's a commissioner, but let's see what it is. This is funny. They're calling her the SEC's crypto mom. Defense decision to drop lawsuits. So that it's a new crypto task force. So this is from CoinDesk, right? And what it says is, man, my internet is being so slow. Okay, SEC Commissioner Hester Peirce, the newly named head of the regulator's crypto task force, has long been a proponent of the crypto industry as one of the Republicans overseeing the federal securities regulator, as she discussed her approach with CoinDesk in late February. So she's trying to right the ship is basically what she said, right? Is that they did kind of go rogue and like they way overstepped their boundaries on what they were even authorized by Congress to do. But because you had the president, of the same political party, like they didn't go after that. They didn't try to stop that. So now you have someone from a different political party coming in and they're trying to kind of right the ship because they felt like the SEC definitely went overboard on what they were statutorily allowed to do.
Yeah, and then they would just sue and take it to the judges because Congress wasn't passing that clarity. And so they would just decide what it was and then sue them in court. And when you're on the raw end of that, the cost can be extreme for you fighting the SEC because if you lose, the fines can be extreme. And it could even be the shutdown of your business. So they held all these companies over a barrel, and watching that was terrible. That's not how regulators are supposed to be. All right, so advertising for VeVe comic drops is having an issue. Do you think that they'll have the same weakness marketing the token when the bull market hits?
That's so the issue that VeVe has with that is the same issue that Netflix has with advertising their shows. They only have so much of a marketing budget, and that budget goes to the big shows like Stranger Things, like Squid Games, Cobra Kai. Now that that's over, unfortunately, and a lot of their other original work that they're able to produce, they just don't get that marketing budget, and there are likely some very good shows that are just not talked about because of that, because it all goes to the big stuff. VeVe had that the other day where I was interviewing Ben, and I didn't know that Garbage Pail Kids and Mars Attacks were coming out, because they come out with dozens of new titles each week, and that's just one of those things that they didn't advertise. Now for Garbage Pail Kids, they didn't need to advertise. That sold out, and that's awesome because people like that IP. They wanted to buy it. Mars Attacks, despite it being, in my opinion, one of the best movies of the '90s, it was so good to me. That sold not a lot, but maybe it would have sold a little bit more with a tweet. I know they do have these tweets saying like, "Hey, we have these titles coming out," but they don't give out every title. And maybe there's a reason behind that. Maybe the reason is because, well, we don't want to give away every title, because if there's something that nobody's interested in, then they're not going to come. But if we don't release every title, then people will come to VeVe Comics just to see if there's anything interesting. And once they're there, they're already halfway to that decision to buy. But the OMI token, I'm concerned, like, are they going to only do like, hey, buy these digital collectibles with OMI? And then are they going to skip out on the part where you might be able to purchase some stuff inside the VeVeverse with that? Or are they going to go and say like they're going to advertise that, but maybe not advertise being able to buy some of these things? I'm just curious to know what their marketing agenda for OMI is, now that it seems that they're going to do that.
Yeah, what's interesting is as things take off, will they really ever market OMI? I don't know that they need to. I think as the VeVe and the collectibles really take off, people will want to buy the associated token. Now, interestingly enough, in preparing for the bull run of 2021, which we didn't have a magic crystal ball to know for sure it would happen, it was just my thesis that 2017 was really big, 2013 was really big. These were the years after the halving, so I thought 2021 would probably be really big for crypto. In preparing for it, I was following the Metaverse tokens, Sandbox and Decentraland, but their utility for the tokens was really weak. So I had this thesis that their tokens wouldn't do very good because the utility was extremely weak. Essentially, the only thing you could use the tokens for was to buy things on OpenSea or buy like some of the land drops that were dropping on Sandbox. But you could also, they could get priced in ETH. So you didn't even have to use the individual tokens for it. So their use case was really weak. But what's crazy is as the bull market was unfolding and people started to focus on the Metaverse narrative, there were a lot of people interested in buying crypto tokens that just wanted the token associated with the project, and they didn't care what the use case was. And the tokens went hundreds of X's. And it was crazy. And I thought, oh my gosh, utility is far less important than I wanted. Also, they never advertised their tokens. They didn't do one ad for them. What happened was Metaverse narrative was hitting, and people thought, what are the major Metaverse projects? Decentraland and Sandbox. And so then they bought the tokens. They just went research, found what the token was associated with it, and bought a ton of it so they could have exposure to the Metaverse narrative. I think the same thing happens with the digital collectibles narrative, that if VeVe spends their advertising dollars to bring in new users to the VeVe platform and getting a lot of hype about VeVe, that will take care of essentially advertising OMI as crypto goes crazy. That's my thought on it. Doc, what are your thoughts?
Say that one more time, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So like,
yeah.
Some people are like the advertising for VeVe stuff, that some of the advertising they do have out there like doesn't advertise everything and stuff. And is there going to be some weakness in their advertising for OMI when it comes out? And my thought is they shouldn't put any marketing budget towards advertising OMI, that all the marketing budget should go towards advertising VeVe, because that will indirectly create the OMI pump.
You nailed it there. Honestly, I don't think that they do need to advertise that. Like, do you really see very many advertisements for tokens or the project of tokens and what the project itself is doing? And I think if VeVe does its job, right, people will be drawn to that. And then when they find, they can talk about Stacker, or Stacker can advertise there. And that, they probably will talk about OMI to NFT and being able to purchase that, right? Because we are seeing some major discounts on some of the collectibles and comics if you purchase with OMI. And so I think that there will be that ability to to play that game, right? And basically say, well, it's cheaper here, so I'm going to buy here. And then, but yeah, I think if they're really building out VeVe, just doing that and focusing on getting people into VeVe, people in VeVe are going to find the token. Now, that being said, I would say that the opposite was true when things first started, right? Like a lot of people heard about VeVe because of the OMI token. But I think as the narrative hits, just the narrative, people are going to search out. If Metaverse hits, people in crypto are going to search out Metaverse tokens, and OMI will be there. So they don't even need to advertise that anymore. And again, shout out to Arcturus for doing that. That's awesome. So that will be one way. But then just the mainstream people that find VeVe, if they're advertising VeVe and they're getting these influencers or through the affiliate program to talk about VeVe, right? Like OMI is going to naturally be a part of that conversation. People are going to ask about it, and they'll be able to do that. So I think if they focus a lot of their advertising on VeVe, a lot of people will find OMI and that use case there. Now, what we don't know, and it'd be interesting to see, right, is are we going to be able to use OMI in the VeVeverse? Meaning, like inside the VeVeverse, when we're in that program, are we going to be able to buy OMI or get OMI somehow to then purchase plants or non-IP stuff? That would be huge and would be another thing where they wouldn't even need to market the token outside of like people that are in the VeVeverse and saying, hey, like, if you want to buy these plants, it would be purchase these in-store gems, but instead of in-store gems, they're in-store OMIs.
Ryan and Keffer, along the same subject, says, just curious, what's the difference between a metaverse and blockchain game? Can a project be both? How far off is VeVe from being both? Randy, what do you think?
It's a good question. So a metaverse, I don't know the exact Webster's definition of it, but it should be a place where multiple people can meet up and in a shared space. Can you bring that comment up so I could see it? Gracias. And a blockchain, yeah, I guess there's really not too much difference. I guess a blockchain game is pretty much the same thing. I would say though that the blockchain game though, like the point of it is to have a game to build off that and do whatever. And the metaverse doesn't necessarily have to be about gaming. You can go and just hang out. You can go in and gaming seems like that'd be a big part of it. But I think it would just be, there's no set objective where you could just explore, you could just build, you could have people over and just, again, hang out and have coffee hour with them, have buzz talks with them. They sip a little whiskey. But yeah, I guess the project can be both. VeVe doesn't have an actual game yet. I imagine the community will build multiple. I imagine VeVe is going to, I don't know if there'll be like a portal from getting the VeVeverse, the Tengoku Senso game, or what other type of worlds we might collaborate with, and saying like, oh, well, you can play this world or you can play this game if you teleport there from here. There's a lot of things that they could do with it, but at the end of the day, I think they can be both. If there's a fun enough game, that'll bring people to VeVe for that.
So what's interesting is some of this is being defined, blockchain gaming as well as metaverses. So there were two metaverses that really, really took hold last thing. And there was more than two, but Sandbox and Decentraland got most of the traction. Project I was following, invested in network, also caught some traction, did incredible gains too, several hundred X's. But what is a metaverse, right? So VeVe-verse pretty much falls into that category. One of the problems with the metaverses is there wasn't anything to do in the metaverses, like Sandbox and Decentraland. Like, are they truly metaverses? They could hold a number of people together in it at the same time, but it was pretty limited. And once you got there, there wasn't all that much you could even do. And so the concept is still being developed. And what is the first metaverse that goes worldwide with traction that people use? That isn't determined yet. Blockchain games, like what is a blockchain game? Well, generally it's a game that has some kind of ownership, that you can own items or you can own the currency in the game, somehow extract the value. It's still a little bit fuzzy, right? So we're now having some AAA level games that are considered blockchain games coming out, like Off the Grid. And that's a ton of fun. I play a lot of that one. What's fun for me is when I was a kid, and I was playing Super Mario Brothers on Nintendo, or even before that, when I was playing, like early days, like Atari and stuff, I was a little kid thinking how amazing it would be to make money playing video games. And that day is here through blockchain gaming. People were playing a really boring game called Axie Infinity back in 2021, and some people were making $2,000 a month playing this game. Why? Because there was a way to monetize what you were earning in the game. I think some of these games, when crypto goes crazy, some of the blockchain games will become some of the biggest in the world this time. And last in 2021, a really boring game, or in my opinion, a boring game. Some people might like it. Axie Infinity, it reached the 10th highest played game in the world for like 3 months. That's really a big deal. Now, you take something like Off the Grid that has a gameplay that a lot of people are used to, and you add a money component in it that people can buy and sell these items for something, a currency that can be traded, or a cryptocurrency that can be traded for real value, real money. I think it catches massive traction. Like, would the VeVe-verse be considered a game? I don't know that it would, because there's not a game element in it yet. That doesn't mean they can't put something like that in there. Metaverse, it seemingly falls into the category of metaverse, especially if you can have multiple people into your VeVe vault or into something that you've created, your Andy's room place, and then you can have a little metaverse party in there. It says Metaverse is Sandbox and Decentraland is. So, yeah, we'll see. Good question. All right. Sanjay says, first, VeVe needs to be successful for its utility token OMI to succeed, and VeVe is well on its way.
Yeah, I mean, you have it depends how you define successful. Again, last time when OMI kind of pumped VeVe, the app was a bit buggy, and it didn't have Marvel, didn't have Disney, but it's got a lot of stuff now. The app is more easily updatable. Can be more efficient with the amount of updates that they can do, and just now you don't have to close the market when a drop is happening, which was nuts when that happened back in the day. And yeah, just more licenses, more confidence. Agreed. I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, Sanjay followed up with great platform, fantastic intellectual property, excellent quality, professional management, and metaverse launch. And now marketing kicking in as the market improves. I think VeVe's really going to do well. That's why it's attracting high net worth individuals that have a history of making really good money in a lot of things that they've done. That's why VeVe attracts so many people like that, because they know a good business when they see it. All right. Shout out to Sleep in here, right? His water heater broke, spilling water into the basement. Bill Gardner saying, "Are your comics okay?" VeVe Zombie said, "Get to boat." Sleepin said, "The comics are good. However, my personal safety is in jeopardy. 3 women and no hot water. That does sound like a life-threatening situation.
I wonder if, I mean, it probably wouldn't work. I wonder if they could just boil the water, but that would take forever. Like you would need to, yeah, that would take so long. But like a rag bath, put a rag in there, and then, but yeah, that'd be.
But if you, yeah, no hot water. I mean, so does that mean electricity is off at the house, or is the stove working?
Well, just a water heater. The water heater's broke, so then it's just not heating up the water for him to.
Is that
to
what
do
flooded
anything.
the basement?
Oh.
Oh, water heater broke. Yeah, he said water heater broke.
Okay, yeah. I was like, I thought that's what he said. I was like, maybe I misunderstood. Yeah.
OBL is in the house. What's up,
that
OBL?
crap, lads? OBL rocks. It's super early. It's got to be really early there, like, or really late, however you want to define it.
Yeah,
But like, I feel like
she stays
Ireland's
up
like
late.
6 hours ahead of us or something like that. You know, or where
Might
I
be
am.
5 now after the spring ahead.
Okay, yeah,
Oh.
that's true. Yeah,
Home
5 hours.
mistakers
I don't
get-
know. So, yeah.
Like,
Wait, what?
yeah. Homies takers
So-
get a portion of revenue would be released. However,
Well, and we'll see that. Man, sorry, Mike. I like that idea, and we'll see if that's possible. Right. This is what's exciting is we're going to start to get some definitions as to what you can and can't do, and maybe staking your token right for revenue is something that's allowed. If I'm gonna be the devil's advocate, though, I would say no. I do feel like that fits more in line with the definition of a security, because you're not doing much, right? You're not doing any work, and you're getting paid for it, and so you're basing it off the revenues of the company who are doing the work. But if they define the cryptocurrency as something different, right? Like it falls under the Community Futures and Trade Commission, right, where it's not a security, it's a commodity, then you can do stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see.
I would hope the regulations allow that. One of the challenges with Gary Gensler at the SEC, you were highly likely to be declared a security while he was there, and short of even in the current SEC, you are still likely to be deemed a security, in my opinion. But if Congress defines crypto as a different thing and it falls outside of securities laws to allow you to do that would be amazing. I would love to see that kind of utility. It would be incredible to share the revenues with token holders. I'd love them to be able to do it. I mean, why are securities regulations so strict anyway? Well, it goes back into like the 1930s that people invested in stocks thinking that they would go up endlessly. And when they didn't, and people were like, no, the government needs to step in and do things. And so the government stepped in and said, you know what, if you're not a high net worth individual, we're not going to allow you to buy these things. Sorry, you're all locked out. And then they gave a framework where then early investors in businesses, they could invest in the early days, these high net worth individuals. And then later there could be initial public offering, which in many cases, those early investors dumping it on the public, to where the public could, now it was deemed safe enough for the public to invest in, which was usually the exit liquidity for early investors who took some of the early risks that the public was then locked out in. So did they make it better for non-rich people? I don't think that they did. They just changed the games and they locked you out of the early gains because they said, you're not sophisticated enough to handle it. You're not sophisticated enough to risk your own money. You can go to the gambling casino, risk your money there, but you're not sophisticated enough to risk your money on early stage businesses. Sorry, you're out. So I would love it if they came in and they took the regulations and took them way back for securities. So that it's like way simpler. And I think they should let regular people in on early stage business investments so that, if you want to do that and take the risk of losing it, you take the risk of losing it. I don't think you should have to be a millionaire to be able to take early business investment and invest in things.
Yeah, I do think that some classes should be required or something, right? so that they get some information. This is just me personally, and I say that because like I think back in the day in the 1930s, right, the amount of information that people could obtain regarding like was way more limited there to where it probably was like, did it make more sense that it was just like, listen, like you guys are so unsophisticated and your ability to obtain information is so limited that like we're like it's way too risky for you guys at this point. Now again, I'm not a fan of the government saying, you know, what you can and can't do. So I'll just put that out there first off, right? But I'm just saying the justification for it. But nowadays when we got like the world at our fingertips, like in our phones and stuff like that, where you can look up. But even still though, man, like, you know, you see all of these things, so many lawsuits and all this stuff that happens where, you know, people they are informed, they get all of the information, and they still make terrible decisions, and then they still want to point the finger and blame someone, you know, and so that's this like catch-22 that you do, right? It's like, okay, so we open it up to a lot of people, and there are some, you know, non high net worth people that they're going to make smart decisions, and they're going to go and they're going to do research, and that actually opens up a lot more capital for these companies, right? They could potentially raise a lot more. However, you're going to get those same people that just like don't read the documents. They don't, you know, they sign it and then they're complaining. And then there's these lawsuits, and do they win it? Do judges side with the consumer? It gets tough, right? But anyways, I just wanted to kind of provide that perspective as well as that. But like, I'm with you. I think blocking all of those people out is not okay, but maybe it's like, okay, you're going to be required. There's going to be some mandatory finance classes that you have to take before you can do this. But that's a lot lower barrier to entry, right, than like a high net worth individual. So
what I hate to see is often there's calls for regulatory regulations in order to make it more fair. And the problem is that over time, regulators get captured by the industry. And so they make it so that the bigger players have favorable things for them. It keeps out all the smaller players. And so like you want to look at regulatory problems. What was the last 4 years with the SEC? I mean, hey, we're a crypto company. We want guidance. We want to know what's going on because we want it. You know what? I've decided I don't want crypto to happen in the US, and I'm going to use my full power to come down hard on you because I don't want it to happen because I'm the regulator here and I get to make those decisions. Unless you're giving $100 million to the Democrat Party, and then let me just make it easy for you. See how regulators sometimes are not a solution for the better? And when you give someone that power, you're like, it's like kind of giving a king power. Yeah, the king's going to make our life better. Sometimes they do. Sometimes, and a lot of times they don't. And regulators, the same thing. Like even if you pick the best regulator in the world, you're like, everyone, every party trusts this regulator. Let's put them in charge. What happens when that regulator retires? Someone else gets put in there. It might be very political. So the more power you give regulators, it can be used wisely and judiciously, and that would be awesome. Like Hester Pierce, I think, is a good example of like, if you read her rulings, it's not always what I would want it to say. But when I read it, I like, you know what? She's taking a fair approach at this, and she's looking at the laws, and she's making like reason. This is what a good regulator looks like. But at some point, she's going to retire, right? And who's going to replace her and have the power? So that's the problem. When you decide we need this benevolent government to be in charge of everything because they're going to make it fair. Yeah, sometimes they do, and a lot of times they don't. When you give someone that power, remember who's attracted to wielding massive power. Corrupt people are really attracted to running for those positions.
I
So
like.
I would like to see way less regulation in crypto. I'd like just kind of green lights, red lights, very limited regulation. I'd even like to see securities laws come way the heck back. Because guess what? Massive players manipulate those markets too. And all these laws to prevent it. And a lot of times they get a slap on the wrist if that even happens for them.
Agreed. There was a post, I think by crypto czar David Sachs, that said, and again, this wasn't the actual clarity, it's just guidance that they're giving them. The clarity will come at some point, where he says that you shouldn't be looking to the government to protect you all the time. You know, if you want to invest in a meme coin, you know, with no doxed owners and, you know, contract address not renounced, like you should be able, as an adult, be able to do that. And I think because in America, I think in most states, lotto is legal. Everyone kind of knows what Vegas is and Atlantic City is, and if you want to gamble, like you can gamble, and there's states and where that's perfectly legal. And for the SEC says, oh, in this one industry, probably because they don't control it, it's like we have to protect people. It's like, okay, well, what about protecting people about like there's Gamblers Anonymous, there's scratch offs in every 7-Eleven, like there's are you protecting people there? I think it's just that they want that power. And again, a lot of people, even if you put certain protections in place, like people are still going to get scammed. People are still going to do or whatever. Like, are there repercussions for people that do that? Yeah, sure. But yeah, that's kind of my take on it. I love the.
My camera decided it's not going to work anymore for me. I'm working to see if I can fix it.
All good, fam. I see all of the starred comments that you have here. I dig it. Which one do you want me to start off with?
Whatever one's on your mind.
Oh, all right. I'll blast through. Mr. MC1 yesterday, Bill hooked me up with Earth 2 land as well. Chilling in these spaces comes with great friends. It does. Millie says, haven't been here in a bit. Hope you guys are well. Thank you for spreading the good info. You went over the other thing with Mr. MC1 and the narrative. You went over Orange Bag Ladies as well. Nurse Cooper's watching with 2-year-old on his lap, and he said hi because he thinks we're FaceTiming. And Crypto Cosmo snagged another 30 plus MC1s just now, saying the prices are too juicy. I feel like he's got enough, but I guess it's never enough for him.
I mean, he's stacking. He's got over 200. He might be like 250 or more now of MC1s. I mean, it's still nowhere close to Sanjay, but he's getting there, man. That's wild. It's absolutely wild. And then Mr. MC1's asking who has comic of Marvel Comics 11,239. That's the date that Timely Comics, aka Marvel, was incorporated as a company, which would be the 12th of January, 1939. I didn't know that. The people are stacking. Well, so we got those comments, but let's jump into some of the other topics. Oh, there we go, Rain.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
All right. Dun, dun, dun.
One of the other ones in the video, David had on the back right of his video, you saw a little kid Goku doing Kamehameha, and which one is that? Is that going to be actual kid Goku? Is it going to be Dragon Ball Z Goku, but it's in a flashback of the Red Ribbon Army? Is it going to be Dragon Ball Daima, where he's wished a little kid again? Like, or is it just that he just has that collectible and he's not really teasing anything, and we don't have a license? I don't know. I feel like we do. Are those one of those things that they'll wait for the greater bull market and euphoria to kick off before they drop it, or is it they have a date, or do they not have it at all? I don't know. These are great questions. I love the speculating about it. Hopefully one day.
I mean, I would wait until the market, because if the NFT narrative hits, and then you drop something like Dragon Ball Z, and all the eyes are, I mean, it'll go ballistic. It'll go ballistic. You know what I mean? So you got to have some of those big plays, and you just got to hold them.
Yeah, I feel like just being in the crypto space for 8 years now, I feel like a lot of people really check out during this time, that things are boring, nothing's happening. Many just sell their positions and get worn out. And the greater bull run does eventually come. It feels like it'll take forever, and then it happens slowly and suddenly. Someone earlier mentioned they feel like the momentum is building. What do you guys feel like? Do you feel like that? I know a lot of crypto altcoins have been savage lately. We're seeing some things beneath the surface where some whales are battling to buy VeVe collectibles, but is the momentum really coming? What do you think?
I mean, it's interesting. I'm in some of the VCs that I'm in, right? Like they are pretty bearish on, and I think a lot of us, like me included, thought that, crypto would have pumped by now. And the fact that it hasn't has a lot of people skittish and stuff. Starting to see some OTC deals on some tokens that I would have never guessed we'd be getting. So like that's really interesting. So I would say that the feeling that I am getting from the overall market sentiment is not that things are getting better. However, we are seeing little blips. There are a couple NFT projects that I believe I had heard like recently launched and sold out. I think that's a pretty big deal that really doesn't happen very much anymore. And I would say that, we're kind of in a bubble within the VeVe community, or like there's some people in the VeVe community or just in the VeVe community. And I would say that the VeVe sentiment has increased in positivity with a lot, like the release of the VeVeverse and people seeing all these, incredible art pieces. And that's what I call them, as art pieces that they've done in their VeVeverse and things. That I think that people are just getting stoked and they're really enjoying that. And so I would say within the VeVe community, I would say the sentiment is up. But the overall crypto market sentiment, I think, is still pretty down.
There's a chart that came out. It's not a chart. It's just if you Google NFT and look at the interest over time, obviously it wasn't. Nobody was really talking about it in early 2020, but then 2021, 2022 happened, then it hit that peak. And then it was flat for a while, but now that you can see kind of the end here, we do have that little uptick, and that little uptick is likely going to, I think, continue as that comes on. Raoul Paul, and again, you could be like, Chavez, it's only been one cycle. You don't know what you're talking about. There's not enough data. You're not smart enough. Okay, whatever. Have that opinion, and that's fine. Raoul Paul, who's infinitely more successful and likely very much smarter, same thing. He's just like, it's going to come back, and he's still buying. He's stacking. Like, granted, he's not. I don't think he's buying anything on VeVe, at least not yet. I try to tag VeVe in a bunch of his posts, but the fact that he's still buying on NFTs, and these are NFTs of newer artists, of people, like they're specifically NFT artists. I don't think he's wrong. So I think it'll come back at some point. Like the volume on NFTs in last quarter in December were really, really big. And then obviously Trump kind of launched the meme coin, so did Melania, and it sucked a lot of the liquidity out of the market, and things kind of went back to memes for a little while. But I think a lot of people are kind of getting tired of getting rugged on a lot of this stuff. You had this really big, massive switch over from people moving from Solana to stuff on ETH and Base. And I think eventually the cream will rise to the top, and people will go into things that have update. Now, are most NFTs out there, like if you have an NFT of this duck, is that going to do well? Probably not. But if you have NFTs of like really big licenses that people really enjoy, I feel like they're people should not fade those companies.
Yeah, I like that chart that you showed, and you start to see it have an uptick, and some people are worried that like, oh no, that is the bull run. This narrative isn't it. We haven't hit the bull run. A lot of the things, the fundamentals behind the scenes are looking amazingly good. And in the past, when in 2020 leading up to 2021, there were some signs going like this, and the sentiment overall, especially when it had some savage pullbacks like this, is, oh, there's no bull run this time. Like, it's the same thing now. And so all those people that are just worried, that's actually a good thing. That's the kind of environment where things were really ready to finally pop off. And we're seeing that again. And some people don't have the patience for this game. When I was new in 2017, people asked me if they should get into crypto. I was like, yeah, I should get it. It's amazing. And it's going to change the world. And since then, like, that's not always my answer. My answer is usually, what kind of patience do you have? Because I found that people come in that have very low patience. They do terrible in this because they can't withstand this type of thing, and they end up selling at lows, lower than they bought, because they don't have the patience just to wait it out. And a lot of times, ultimately, their buys were right. They just didn't have the patience to wait it out through times like this, would end up selling at a loss and then thinking crypto was bad. You know, what is that old saying about an investment? Investing is a tool from which money changes hands from the impatient to the patient. Crypto investing is no different. Like, is this still going to happen? It's setting up for that. Of course, it's still going to happen. It just hasn't happened yet. Rain, but what if you're wrong this time? I'm never wrong. Don't you know me? Okay, I've been wrong before. The odds are really stacked highly for us. Could something else happen? Yeah, it's called nuclear war. That would probably derail everything. But the bull run is still going to happen later this year. Might be early next year, but probably later this year or even in the coming months. Now that so many people are so sure it's not going to happen, that's the type of environment where it's finally ready to happen. All right.
My body is ready.
Yeah. When OMI gets utility, e.g. gamified and serious burns in VeVeverse, expect a lot of people to come back into VeVe. Give people competitive fun that benefits their crypto, and they will come. Yeah, great sentiment.
I like Surfer Dude. I haven't seen him in a while. Shout out to you, Surfer Dude.
Crypto Cosmo in the house, and Sanjay giving Cosmo shout out. Yeah, you already read the standalone 30 MC1s. Crazy. All right.
Beast mode.
Cool. All right, gentlemen, what else is on your mind? Anything else you want to talk about? I guess we got 1 year of VeVe comics. More than 1 year of comics in VeVe. You mean 1 year of actual VeVe's own brand of comics?
No, the website that they partnered with Marvel on to launch the same day. I think it's been significant. I think that it's another revenue source, and they're still selling a decent amount, you know, and it's cool. You know, in some of these Telegram groups, I got to shout out Mahalo. Mahalo was giving me some alpha on some of these, you know, comics. It's been interesting to see because it's it's so difficult to keep up with everything that's out there, and especially like, man, life has just been wild for me. So I've been out of the loop on a lot of stuff lately, and so I really appreciate some of the alpha. But there's a lot of pretty incredible stuff that they're dropping as NFTs on VeVe through the VeVe comics right now. So you know, maybe hit up Mahalo and see if he'll share that alpha with you. But I think, first of all, congratulations to VeVe. What a cool thing, right? To have Marvel lock in their future with VeVe. That's huge. And I don't think that people do not understand how incredible that partnership is. Right? Like, Marvel is like, here's the keys to our digital future, VeVe. Let's ride this together. That is absolutely phenomenal. So shout out to David and Dan and like whoever made that deal happen. That's a big, big deal. So I love that. Love it.
I don't think we can overhype how big a deal that was and how like undervalued that is. And I asked Ben on stream, I was like, hey, we can tell how much you guys are making from the limited NFT versions of these comics, but how much are you guys making from the non-NFT version? And he's just like, it's our little secret. I was like, girl, why you tease me like that? And we're just never going to know. We're never going to know. And I don't know what I need to do. Do I need to like buy into this company? I'll do it. When OMI goes up, I'll be like, David, let me get a piece so I can find out how much we're freaking doing here. I don't think I'd be able to disseminate that information, but you know, it'd be good to know my own curiosities.
Mr. MC1 is looking for comic number 11239 or 11,239 because that's the date Timely Comics, aka Marvel, was incorporated as a company. So probably a bounty on that one. All right.
Probably look on Stacker for it. You'd have to go through so many. You'd have to scroll forever for that. But yeah, you'd probably look it up on Stacker.
Mike says, I've been out of VeVe for a while after selling Todd at like 26K. I wasn't aware Todd went to 26K. I saw some sales at 16K. And maybe type 16K. Yeah, but I want to load 50K into VeVe and collect stuff to hold, not trade, to focus on first appearances. I like the focus on first appearances.
All right. Yeah, FAs are always great. Outside of the FAs, I think the gold gold and silver VeVe logo is really good. That is one of the things that, one, it keeps on giving because you're able to go on and redeem new stuff from it each year. And again, it has that network. But if you're like, hey, listen, Chavez, 3,500 is kind of a lot. Agreed, it is. But if you don't want to spend that, I think in order to get that network, you're not going to get any airdrops or anything each year. But to get access to that network, the OMI Secret Rare logo is something like, again, that's just for networking. How much is that going to go to the moon? I have no idea. We have a lot more data on the gold and silver logo, but as talking about first appearances, partner statue with a double first appearance is wild. Certain things that did not do that well in the primary market, but I think are really popular licenses are like the Moana stuff, the Encanto stuff. I think those things they're pretty scarce, and I think they'll probably do well in the future.
Big A in the house, he says, what's up, fellas? Listening while playing some Off the Grid. I will brag that our Off the Grid crew is pretty damn good. So we sometimes keep up with some of the best players in the world. And yeah, a couple wins over some of the best teams in the world. Usually they beat us. But yeah, that's been a lot of fun. That game is seriously fun. I really enjoy it.
I want to play it now. I hear you talk about it all the time.
Mm-hmm. There's a learning curve, and especially against these gamers that have all these background in a lot of backgrounds come together in this. Like one of the people I play with is seriously good. He had played some PUBG, but a lot of, what is that game that Epic Games built that's so big? I've never played it. Fortnite. Yeah, and so people that are really good at Fortnite, there's a lot of crossover to skills in Off the Grid. But like some of the people are unreal. And if you're playing on console, which I do, you have a disadvantage against the PC players. They can just spin around faster. They can aim faster because the mouse and keyboard is superior to a controller. But and the problem is right now you can't disable crossplay. So sometimes our wins are against PC players, even though we're playing on the console, and that's a big deal.
Yeah, man. When I play Gears of War and I'm playing against someone on a console, I get destroyed. I mean, so that's crazy that you're even able to be competitive doing that crossplay. So yeah, hopefully they got to turn on that crossplay. But yeah, they need more players, right? So like they're gonna have that crossplay to make sure that there's enough people there to keep the games, churning.
It is pretty fun when you kill like some of the biggest streamers on there. Like I remember one big streamer, I think it was Publixaro or something. They used to have these trip mines, and they used to be able to stick the trip mines to people. And he was running to the buyback station to buy back one of his teammates, and I pop out, throw a trip mine on him, and blow him up. I'm like, buddy, live on his stream, right? Yeah, that was fun.
That's awesome.
Todd may go up around 5-year anniversary mark, maybe every major VeVe milestone anniversary. I think Todd, being the first Batman thing, I think Todd's always going to be a big deal. And the price is not as cheap as it used to be, 80 gems when it's sold, but it's probably as cheap as it's ever going to be again. All right. Any other thoughts, gentlemen, before we wrap up?
I think that'd be about it. I guess the only other thing that's probably about it. I thank you guys for being here. Thank y'all for the super chats. Everyone say bye-bye to Dashi. Bye-bye, Dashi.
All right, guys. Good stream. We'll see y'all later. Thanks for joining us.